I have very strong opinions, as I'm sure the series will continue to prove. For me, when you are doing an original series, you gain a double-edged sword. You get the freedom to tell whatever story you want, and you also, in theory, should have an easier ability to frame your story to whatever length you get okay to produce for. However, you no longer get the excuse, if you don't fully close your story, that you were just adapting one-to-one and it just didn't work out well, you know? That's one of the big problems with Number 24. It really doesn't close the story. They get the chance to go to the Nationals, but we don't see any of that. We can see the players are getting closer, but we didn't get the full committed relationships, because A, you absolutely went super hard on the BL bait, and B, like, come on, they're absolutely gay. But for me, the reason the closure issue exists is that you had 12 episodes, and you couldn't figure out what kind of story you wanted to tell. You wanted to tell both a typical sports stories of a school probably winning the Nationals, and a BL romance story of a player making up for earning his boyfriend's chance at playing rugby. Frankly, I think you could have told a decent to good story either way, but if you decided to go both, you're compromising your story. Especially as I cannot stress enough, you have 12 episodes and no promise of a sequel. So unless you have a guaranteed contract for a sequel, make sure your story fully closes. And if you want, you can leave it opening, but at least tell a story arc that concludes. You may say, well, them getting to Nationals was a story arc. Was it? I'm not so sure. I think they weren't sure what their arc was. Because at the start, it's basically, again, boyfriend making up for the other boyfriend's inability to play rugby anymore. And changes at the end to, let's beat this team so we can get to the Nationals because we're trying so hard and are good friends. Most of us are probably banging someone else on the team. Also, you have possibly too many characters. I think there's 25 named players, and that's a lot. I really couldn't tell you their names, and at best, I could probably only say what their only defining characteristic was. Even if I reduce it to the main ones where you tease romance, that's still like more than 10, and that's again, still a lot for a 12 episode series. If you're going for a more romance angle, you could make those numbers work, and have the games sort of be vehicles that bring us to the events that bring them closer. However, you're still trying to keep out the era of being a sports anime, and that episode's dedicated to them playing the game, and how that affects their chances to get to the Nationals. And frankly, you can't have it both ways and keep it being a self-contained 12-episode series, because the people who want to watch a rugby sports anime are going to complain there is too much romantic drama in their rugby anime. And romance people are going to say that there's too much rugby anime in my BL romance anime. I haven't even got started talking about the plot yet. But anyway, J-Pop wannabe here gets into an accident so he can't play rugby anymore. So he switches to being a manager, and one of the first things he decides to do is forcefully bring back long and blonde boyfriend who's trying to get over the guilt of being the driver in the accident, and a J-Pop's chance to play rugby. He of course comes back, and he has to regain the trust of the players he ditched after the accident. This includes childhood quiet pretty boy, who also wants to bang J-Pop, and the fiery redhead junior, who has an inferiority complex now that he has to fill the spot that J-Pop can't play anymore. He also wants to probably bang J-Pop, but switches to Big Blue Twink about halfway through the series. Also due to the fact that Long and Blonde is taking the role of a fourth year, that players juniors from the same high school do not like him, and thus are not working well together. But that plays a less major role until the back half, after one of them gets injured. But again, mainly pretty boys dealing with the drama about the status of their relationship and their hang-ups, and clearing those up since they're causing the team to lose, so they can win the big final game to get into the Nationals. Again, the plot screams two different things. The gaining trust thing seems more sports anime, while dealing with their complex relationships, and of course the BL bait, leads me toward a more romantic series. One of the subplots is literally quiet pretty boy is losing his ability to kick well, as he isn't sure he'll see J-Pop smile anymore if he messes up his kicks. Again, you can't tell me that they are not in fact gay for each other. I think the drama part is actually the better version, and having the story of them dealing with it and their status might have been a better design choice. As a sports series, it isn't great. I went in not knowing how rugby works, and leaving barely knowing anymore how rugby works and the strategies at play. Many am spoiled by series like iShield 21, Slam Dunk, and Haiku, who do a good job explaining the sports and the strategies at play. But I think this is key to making any series more watchable. At the end of the day, you have an indecisive series who couldn't decide what it wanted to be. Of the two groups it tries to go for, I think the BL romance people will probably enjoy it more than the sports anime people, which is a shame, as the OP's energy really fits a sports anime, and it's a total bop. But again, let this be a lesson. Figure out what your story is, as if you try to do two stories, you're only weakening the potency of two. As you can't tell the story of finding the One Piece and figuring out who framed Roger Rabbit at the same time. You can have one help lead to the other, but you can't have both trying to be the main tone of the story at the same time.